Yeah, I think that's the key question that everyone's trying to figure out right now is what does reopening mean in that context? And I think there was some talk about a second wave. Well, this isn't even actually the second wave that a lot of the epidemiologists have talked about, where they're talking about a return of the virus coming back in the fall. For a lot of these states, Texas, Arizona, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, this is some extension or even the first spike of the first wave. So it's adding to a lot of uncertainty for the country. I saw the report recently, or in the last segment, on Europe reopening and airlines reopening. We want to see more of that in the United States, but it's really hard to imagine some kind of full reopening when you have these kinds of spikes in these major markets in the United States right now.
And so much of this reopening and the return of activity depends on the labor market. What's your take on what these continued little outbreaks, and I don't want to use the word little, but these continued outbreaks and spikes mean for the return of jobs, the return of some of those furloughed workers who are waiting to hear whether they're going to be able to re-enter the workforce sometime soon?
Yeah, and look, we just in large parts of the country, you're seeing it. In New York, Governor Cuomo cautioned about some of the large gatherings we saw at this relief on reopening in New York last week. But we saw, a lot of restaurants reopening, a lot of businesses are reopening. We're reconsidering, or we're trying to judge the timing to come back to our offices, as a lot of companies are, and we're starting to ease into that because people do want to get back to work where it is safe and they have the protocols and they're doing the proper distancing to do that. So it is crucially important. We're talking about 40 million people unemployed in the United States. The numbers are enormous. The increases have slowed, but they're still really large, weekly, people adding to the unemployment rolls. So they want to come back to work. In a lot of places, they're going to be able to do it with, with this kind of safe practices and distancing, but it's not going to be back to normal. People keep talking about back to normal. It's not going to be back to normal. It's going to be something less than normal economic activity. I went to our restaurant, Julianne, last week for the first time, I think, since February, which was wonderful, right? But, every other table was being used, and at 50% occupancy, they had fewer workers to work at those tables. And that's going to be repeated in large parts of the economy.